So what I want to do is look into this blue DSi XL that I actually had returned to me due to it having a strange issue where it would blip in and out of sleep. I have never heard of this problem before, so I'm very interested to know exactly what's going on. If there's some reason with, or there's some problem with the magnet strength in the speaker, there's something wrong with the little magnetic component that's about right here that controls the sleep function. So what I want to do is just get it on and just see if I can replicate the symptoms that I was told about. So let me get a game in. Let's do Mario Kart. So what I kind of noticed initially is the Wi-Fi light doesn't dim. Huh. So let me grab a measurement of this. So what I've been doing for the past few days or so is actually taking a caliper measurement of how how much space, how much I need to open the console before it exits out of sleep mode. So I have a set of calipers. I'll be measuring in millimeters. I'm just putting down this microfiber cloth so I don't scratch the console. So I have it in millimeters. So what I'm going to do is rest it on the shell of the console between that and the little rubber stopper for the top shell so I don't scratch anything. I'm going to open it until it kicks out of sleep. Close it until it goes back into sleep. And very slowly open it. Till it goes about right there. So I'm getting 23 millimeters, which is on the high end of everything that I've been testing. So this doesn't line up with what I was told, with how the console was kicking out of sleep mode, just being barely opened. And barely open meaning like if I lift the console up by its top shell, the resistance of the hinge is fighting me. So I would have to, yeah, so the hinge just gave out right there because I put enough downward pressure to actually initiate the hinge. I expect that to be fairly, like, to the greatest of my understanding, that's normal. Like, it's not just, the console won't just flop open. Like, if I hold it with the bottom shell and even just shake it a little. Like, until it actually triggers the hinge to actually clip open. Oh, look at that. I think that's what the seller or the buyer was talking about. That's fascinating. Look at that. The screens are blipping. And I can hear it very faintly popping. It's not going to be picked up. That's curious. That is really curious. Whoa. Okay. Let me turn it back on and go to Mario Kart again. I just thought of this right as soon as I turned it off. So let me just turn that down so it's not blaring. So kind of like what I was saying, the sleep mode is triggered by a small component right about here that that plays off of the magnet of the speaker and shuts off. How magnets work, that I don't even want to try and explain. I don't understand the full idea myself or how that component works, but I know the basic principle of magnet equals turn off. So I have these little tiny, I think they're neodymium magnets, really strong little guys. So this should simulate what would happen if I close the console. Look at that. So I wonder what that is. That is wild. So obviously the console shouldn't be doing this, and I did note that the Wi-Fi light didn't dim, so the console is not going into sleep. Kinda going into sleep, like it's still on. Like it's not soft resetting. That's kind of wild, actually. So, I don't know what to make of that. Like, I'm really stunned. I've never seen anything like that before. So I worked it out with this buyer that I'm going to be replacing this console. So what I might end up doing is just replacing the motherboard. It is of my best opinion that it's that small component that's actually faulty. I've never heard of that component becoming faulty before. Like, I know I have run across issues with consoles in sleep mode, but never like this. Never any recorded cases that I've become aware of. So I want to get the motherboard out and I want to look at that component. Maybe it's just like I could try reflowing the joints. I don't know how exactly those joints would go cold or how much that actually would play on the console doing that. Like, that is wild. Like, really, that is just crazy. What can I say? Nintendo DSIs are just... I have a soft spot in my heart for these things. Oh yeah, this was an older console that I put together because I don't put the tape over these points anymore. For no real reason other than... no real reason. So when I swap a motherboard, I'm probably going to have to do another battery test. Motherboard shouldn't matter, but I would rather be a little safe than sorry. Oh, it's 3.7 volts. Gosh darn it. That's completely unrelated. I responded to a Reddit thread. I said 3.3 volts. It's 3.7. Oh well, I'll figure it out. I was sure to add some uncertainty in my language when I was talking about it. And somebody else on Reddit can correct me. I can get their brownie points for the day. Alright. Put this aside. So the component in question is this guy right here, component U20. This is the one that's sensitive to magnets. From what I've been able to tell, I'm positive it's this component right here. Let me look at it under a microscope, I guess. I've never heard of... Because this is the only lead I have, is that maybe a solder joint is just popped on that one. Like, this is all brand new territory for me. Maybe, like, a capacitor is blown on this line. Maybe a resistor. Like, this is... I had no clue. Let's get my microscope initialized. There it is. It should be this little fella right here. And... like, is it that capacitor that's sitting right next to it? Because the solder joints look fine. At least, sort of. And then it has vias that go... yeah, God knows where. So the only thing I can think of doing is just reflowing those joints and seeing what happens. Seeing if that fixes it, or maybe just this little guy is faulty. Because I remember testing this recently. Well, not really recently, but a while back. Because somebody was also having a sleep issue. A little bit different from this, but... it was enough for me to sort of look into, like, what exactly causes the sleep. I was on a DSI, but... because the DSI had the component sitting right in between the D-pad, or right in between the face buttons, right at the center. This one's a little off to the side. So let's just reflow these joints. Grab a little bit of solder. Those should be good. I'm just gonna sort of just isolate it. So right now it's just reflowing that component. I don't think reflowing the capacitor will matter. It looks fine. This all looks fine, but I'm just sort of throwing ideas on a wall and seeing what sticks, basically. It could be this component's failing, which I've never seen this component fail before. Like, this is all wild to me. Like, of all the strange faults in a DSI, usually a lot of power-related stuff are much higher tier, a lot related to just the charging system. I don't want to get too much rubbing alcohol on to disturb these buttons. I wonder if there's some resistance values I can take with this component, with or without a magnet. See if I can actually see it in action. We have... If I see anything outrageous on my multimeter, I'll show it. So from the one leg right here, I get 0.1 ohms. Should just be ground. Should be a good ground point. Wow, I'm kind of bouncing all over the place. Wait, is that just continuity? Yeah, that's just ground. Okay, I'm stupid. Then we have... Oh, that's on diode. That's not helpful. 4.4 mega ohms. Then 2.6 or 2.7 kilo ohms, give or take. Let me grab my magnet. Oh, they're right here. This might be kind of hard to do, actually. I could probably get away with almost my screwdriver, and neodymium might be a little overkill. So let me kind of get this in frame here. Squeeze that over. So right at the bottom is ground, so it will register 0. It sort of will tick down to 0. Oh, let me get this. I'm just doing a ground pad on the game card slot, one of the mounting pins. And it'll tick down to 0 continuity, so that's the ground pad. Then we have this input up here, 4.3 mega ohms. And we have this one right here. It's about 2.7. So 4.3 and 2.7, yeah? .3 and 2.7. I'm just gonna put the magnet like close to it, I guess. That should be enough to trigger it. Ah! It doesn't stick to my probes. Oh, this little feller is... That might be enough. It'll be far enough away to my probes. So that's still 4.3 mega ohms. .6. What was it before? 2.7. So it jumps up about 1 kilo ohm when a magnet is introduced to it. It'll stick to the button. Let me look at it again. Will that cut continuity from this third pad? No, it doesn't. Oh, that's diode. Whoa, 7.3? Maybe that makes sense. It jumped up. Maybe this one's a little closer now. 4.3 and then 2.6. What if I put the magnet on my lead? Probably is going to tick all the way down to 4.3 again. Yeah, 4.3. And it's still 2.6. And that's continuous. Let me grab another motherboard. This is my tester motherboard, which, as far as I know, should work. All the components should work. So this should be continuity. Well, it should tick down to 0, which it looks like it will. $4.6. 77? Wow, that's a lot higher. Put the magnet on. $77. 4.6. I'm curious, this component might not actually be responsible. Okay, let me do some testing with my little tester console I have right here then. I'm just gonna need to set it up. I guess I don't need a game in it. So, it could, like, I was kind of looking at this component. This component's a little strange looking. I always thought it was this guy, because when I move a magnet is when it finally triggers it. So I'll move the magnet sort of down. Upside down? Oh, yeah, it was upside down. Okay, hang on. So about the center of the A button is when it triggers, which is pretty close to this component. So if I sort of do like if I do the radius of this component, yeah, it has to be this component. Because it's blipping out. Well, I could caliper this. About 7mm radius is when it will blip out. I'm guessing it will be a sphere. like a sphere of influence, so 7 millimeters up. How far is 7 millimeters? About right here. Oops. Oh, it's even higher. So I'm like 16 millimeters away before it actually triggers. So I was right in my initial assessment that it was this tiny component right below the A button. Oh, polarity matters. And this is my tester console. And this is what I would expect, this behavior. So let me put this motherboard in. I'll just put it in my testing. I'll just put it in with my tester console. I need to transfer over the power board as well. And pretty much all these tester components are just junk. Like this. Repair contacts? Oh, right. I soldered a wire onto these top. They're components I can't sell because they're just either, yeah, this bottom screen is blotchy, which means it has water damage on it. There's just nothing I can do about them. But they still work, which kind of sucks. I could probably swap out the components in this screen now that I'm getting more used to opening these screen housings up. Replace all of the diffusion layers and the backlight. Assuming there's no water damage on the LCD itself, I should still be able to use it. The top screen, since it's the LED, it's the LCD layer, that's bad. I could harvest the backlight out of it to repair a yellowed console, but yeah, why bother? I haven't gotten to that point, and I have a lot of junk screens that are in much worse shape that I can harvest the backlights out of. I need to get a Wi-Fi board in this, or it won't boot. So all I did to this console is reflowed the component that, well, I believe is responsible for the sleep mode. At least all of the sort of like non-scientific data I'm collecting. I don't know why the resistance readings aren't different. It's probably because the resistance is the same. It's just the voltage going through it will change. I could check that. I'm no electrical engineer, so a lot of this stuff is still very new to me. A lot of it really doesn't make much sense, but I'm trying. Now look at the board one more time, just to, yeah, there's nothing on the other side of the board that could be responding to the magnet. It is this little fella right here. It's not the capacitor next to it, because magnetically sensitive ceramic capacitors would definitely be a new one for me. So this is the board from that console. I'll be able to confirm that based on the previous owner's name. So neodymium, oh, here it is. So now let's just try it. This might be the wrong side. 50-50 chance. Yeah. It was really as simple as that. Maybe just that solder joint was cold. And you can see that the Wi-Fi light will dim. It's a little hard to tell with my overlight on. But it wasn't doing that when I first got the console. So it'll dim, come back on, dim. Now, neodymium magnets are a little outrageous. Where did I put them all? Oh, right here. Like, these are like extreme case. Like, there is no neodymium magnets, at least not that I'm aware of, in these speakers. So to just sort of simulate what it would look like, the speakers are, I don't know, roughly like this. So if I were, I'm going to just grab this speaker, it shouldn't matter. If I were to close the console, the speaker will be right there. And then when you open the console, it turns back on. So it could have just simply been just a bad solder joint. That is wild. That of all things. Now I do kind of want to, let me see if I can just do some voltage readings and just, I'm not exactly sure how I can actually do this. I think I can pair it to ground, because what I learned is the voltage reading is just sort of like a comparison. It's not exactly how I thought of it originally. So this, if this is ground, then ground to ground, there's no voltage. .3 coming into that left leg. 3.3 into that right leg. So what if I put the... Oh, this might be a little hard. Um, I might be able to do the neodymium magnet because the magnet strength is irrelevant. It's just whatever's triggering the mechanism inside. It could just be some, like, I don't know exactly how those little surface mounted components work. It could really be as easy as just like a little tiny conductive metallic, or like a little magnetic ball that just like lifts and breaks continuity. So I'll try the neodymium magnet on my probe and just see if that does trigger it. Okay. So now the left leg. Ooh, yeah, it breaks continuity. So the right leg is for voltage input, which is 3.3. And kind of like what I was theorizing, if there's just an itty bitty like metallic magnetic component in there that's bridging 2 points, and then when the magnet pulls up on it, it breaks the continuity. I'd have to break one apart, which I don't really want to, just to see if that's actually the case, but that makes the most sense to my mind. But right now, right here, let's actually go on to continuity. So without the magnet, let me see if I can power off this console and not send. Here and here, both the right and the left leg do not have continuity. That bottom leg does, because it's going to ground. Let me put the magnet on. Now the right leg is going to ground. The left leg isn't. So I may have had that reversed just based on my readings. So now I have continuity to ground from the right leg. Without the magnet, there is no continuity. Oh? Maybe I was right. Is it because the console's off that I can't get those readings? Ground. Nothing. Yeah, so like I said, a lot of this is still very new to me. But I find fun in just probing around and just seeing like, oh. So, it's in sleep. Interesting is I thought that would short the ground. Interesting is this one is showing that it has 0 ohms, but it's not chirping at me. I'm not touching it? There it goes. I must not have been touching it. I'm getting almost... it's probably just ticking down. My meter is a little late. Interesting is I get no resistance Well, I don't know if the continuity will tell me resistance values. But let's go back to... Oh, powered off. So let me just check voltage again. Or why it did that. So that's ground. 3.3. 3.3. Oh, I think it's because these tips are magnetic. Or the tips of my... Probably magnetized by having magnets attached to them. I can demagnetize them. So they're both 3.3. Now we have 0 voltage, but it's not continuity. Like that's, I think that's just different. So we still have 3.3 volts, but it does break the line. Right here, the left leg has 0 volts. And then that goes into a via that shoots off to God knows where. So the resistances are the same. Yeah, okay, well. I don't necessarily need to keep probing. I kind of have my answer that it was indeed just probably a cold solder joint, because right now it's going into sleep. So let me put it back together in its original shell and see if it's any other component. What I should have done, well, I did test it with a neodymium magnet, and it would not make any sense to me to be any other component. So I did, okay, this is the original Wi-Fi board. Let's put all this stuff in my box. Here's the original one. Get the... Since I have it all apart like this, I'm just going to clean off the ribbon cables. This is an older console that I put together. I don't know how, like, diligent I was at making sure I don't leave any hand goo on these ribbon cables. As much as I should be wearing gloves to do all this, I don't like sweat pouring out of my gloves. I feel like I have better control over what I'm doing when I don't have gloves. Oh. This camera ribbon has some gunk on it. Hmm. I think it is just gunk, because I did test the camera and it did function. I'll grab the magnifying, or the microscope. I don't know what it is. It's like a little bit of adhesive, maybe? It was sort of wiping off. Okay, hang on. Yeah, okay, just a little bit of corrosion. It didn't break the contact point, I can tell that. That's kind of wild. I'll just try and... Well, I will be able to wipe it off. I might have to scrape it with a plastic pry tool. Do I have a sharp one? Yes, I do. Ooh, did it eat away that line? I might need something a little harder. Grab a sewing needle. I don't think it really ate away that trace. If it did, this console's going to need a lot more work than I bargained for. Okay, that seemed to do it. Wow, look at that. Yeah, so I'm gonna probably have to replace this. Oh, no, maybe it's there. It's just got a little bit of that copper coating is off of it. I don't think that's actually chewed away, because if I change my light head on, it looks like almost that entire section is just broken. Yeah, I think I'm just scraping off the coating with this needle. I'm definitely not scratching it hard enough to break the trace. Well, I know the camera works, so it's just a little corrosion. And since you can see the connector has the impressions on the end of the leg, the coating right there doesn't matter. I'm just going to grab my meter. My probes are pretty sharp, so I should be able to get in there. You know what? Man, looking right there, that does look like it's broken. Yeah, I think that's completely gone, actually. I thought I maybe scraped off the copper, but I think that trace is pretty much almost gone. I am getting somewhat continuity, like I get some continuity, but once I sort of venture into that area, it's completely gone. Okay, well, this is going to get a little more complicated. So I think for this one, I'm just going to have to, I'm going to have to take it apart and get that camera unit pitched, basically. That camera, there's nothing I can do about that. Like, the problem with these types of breaks, usually it's always with corrosion that just eats away those traces. I can't repair that because then it's going to inhibit its ability to enter the actual, I think they're called like ZIF connectors. Like, I won't be able to put them in and seat them all the way. I'll begin to seat them, and then if it hits, like, if I bridge it with a wire or even like a blob of solder or something, it's going to hit that and it'll prevent it from seating fully. It might be far enough down that it might not matter, but like, you seat this ribbon pretty much all the way to the ear. Damn, that sucks. Okay, well, I figured out what was going on with the sleep. That is very curious. So so now I know how to diagnose that. It's just holding a neodymium magnet up to it and just seeing if it glitches like that. Thankfully, I don't have to measure it and try and make an assessment based on like arbitrary measurements because I wasn't really sure what to do with that information. So this will just have to be a console. I have to fully take it apart and replace the camera unit. I don't necessarily feel like doing that right now. I don't know if I want to. Because the console I'm preparing to replace for the buyer who returned this, it'll either be this console, which is a blue DSi about the similar shape that I've been doing testing on, or it will be this one again. Yeah, I'm just going to have to think on that for a little bit. See what exactly I want to do. What's interesting is that camera unit worked, so I don't know what that line was for. Maybe just that corrosion, or there's enough continuity through that like broken trace that it kept going. Man, I think I am gonna replace the camera and get this same console back. Logistically speaking, I think that's just the easiest, as that's what I have in my records. I will have to run this through a battery of tests. Primarily the game card slot, because that was also another point. As much as I don't like to admit that there was a problem with the game card slot after how much testing I tried to do on them. Let's get these. The only thing this console has going for it is the screens are matched. They have screen protectors on. And all of the documentation I have for this is already good. So if the only thing I'm replacing is the camera unit, that should be very benign to the operation of this console. So I don't have to retake a battery measurement. I just have to make sure that the cameras initialize. What's really surprising to me is I didn't catch that corrosion on that camera unit. I figured, well, I'm not exactly looking for corrosion on the camera units, but usually if there's corrosion like that, those camera units won't boot. You'll go into the camera app, you'll try to initialize the camera, and it'll spit you an error has occurred. And it could have just been one of those things. You could just leave it alone and it would be fine forever, basically, until you open the console and took out that ZIF connector and then put it back in. It's possible it would have scraped away enough corrosion that it would have yeah, that's really surprising. I thought I would have caught that. But this is why I usually like to test the camera and the microphone before I put these consoles together, because of just how married they are to the top screen, that if one goes wrong, I have to take the whole thing apart. I'll have to ask the buyer if they don't mind just having the same console back. I'll give them a couple options. Because an issue with the game card slot is unacceptable in my terms. Like, I should have caught that through my battery of testings, and I didn't. So I've been trying to adjust to make sure that I can catch that in the future. That sleep problem, that's complete left field. I would have never caught that, because I've never looked for it. So, because the camera unit is a ribbon cable, I'm going to have to take this entire thing apart. Oh, and I need to get the power board out in order to access the hinge. Fantastic. Kind of running out of screw spaces on my left side, but thankfully I know where all these screws go. Pretty much by heart at this point. At least my cleaning standards back then were still very high. All these buttons look really good. Get the cold solder joint. Like, that is really wild. I didn't think it would be that easy, or I didn't think it was going to be that simple. Like, but I also had no idea what it could be. Like, it had to have been that component, but like, to what end is it that component? Is it the whole component? Like, that's just wild to me. I'm still sort of blown away. And it wasn't able to quite exactly emulate what the buyer was saying, how they could hear the game. But it was definitely not sitting in sleep. Like, it was like very erratic behavior. And just to check, the top screen ribbon cable looks good. There's no sign of corrosion on it. How this corrosion kind of sneaks into some of these cables, I don't know, because sometimes these corroded parts come from like perfectly normal consoles. Just from the outside, just maybe just a little bit of fluid got in or something, some type of chemical reaction just happened. Because as you can see, like this side hinge where these ribbons sit, it's pretty sealed. It's not like the other side that has the 3 slits for the LED diffuser, where sure, fluid could get in pretty easily. Do the adhesive around the screen. Make sure that the speakers are out of their little... Okay, now this camera unit's out. Stick this camera unit in my junk pile. So I don't know if this camera unit works. I pulled this out of my bag of at least possibly functioning. Almost looks like there's adhesive, or sticky stuff there, but not adhesive, but like soda. Just that part of the ribbon cable is kind of shiny. But it's on the outer sheathing. I think it's just a little dirty. Looking at the contacts, they look good. I'll just do my eyeglass look at them. Yep, they're all fine. Let me grab my test console and just test out to see if cameras initialize. It's really all I look for. I would usually need, I need the touchscreen plugged in. I would usually want to plug in a shoulder button. Actually, I have shoulder buttons sitting right here. Just to get into the camera menu without accidentally triggering the tutorial. I don't remember if I went through the tutorial on this tester motherboard. I wish I didn't wipe my tester console. I think the person who had this motherboard before I did, they were called Lasagna, and I just called it my Lasagna motherboard. But it had personal pictures on it, and I'm like, I don't really like flashing those all the time, so just wiped it. Okay, plug in a shoulder button. Now get the camera installed. Oh, come on now. Okay. Kind of doing this off screen because I don't exactly have the most space. Okay, so turn it on. Make sure I can see both camera lenses. Oh, my shoulder button's not working. Oh well. Maybe I just didn't plug it in. Oh, I was afraid of this. I knew I was going to do this. I kind of have my shoulder button plugged in. It's possible it popped out when I put it in the shell. I should be making a contact. I really don't want to. I'll plug in this one. I wonder if I have it upside down. No, shouldn't be. What, your biblically accurate DSi XL? Don't want to go through that stupid tutorial. There we go. Right, catching my camera that I use, my phone, and then the front facing, there's my other stuff. Cool, camera unit works. I get it all just disassembled. I don't know why that shoulder button wasn't registering, it should. Oh god. This is all my tester stuff, so I can just put it back. So now reassembling that top screen. Now this is usually a pretty difficult part for first-time reshellers and people first working out on these consoles, and I really can't blame them. This is not easy. But what I found from working on new 3DSs that have, or 3DSs and new 3DSs that have 3 ribbon cables that go through the hinge, if you start with the outermost ribbon cable, in this case on the DSi is the camera, just feed it completely through the ring. Usually I can just do this by hand. These camera ribbons have this like electrical tape on it, so these camera ribbons are pretty robust. And then using a bobby pin, grab the display ribbon, coil it up. I usually have to pinch these bobby pins just a little so it can grab onto the contacts. Coil it up like that, and then feed it through. I used to try and do both the camera and the display at once. The problem is when you're trying to feed the camera ribbon through, it will get caught up on some of the shell and make it very difficult to go through. But if you feed the camera ribbon first, it almost makes like a smooth bore that will make it so the display ribbon will just slide right through pretty painlessly. So voila, it did pushing out the ring, but yeah, just like that. Like that is the single most difficult thing for probably the most difficult repair that isn't like completely out of the ordinary, like replacing a game card slot, which can be very complicated. So let me get this camera cinched down. I'm just going to clean off the lens with a little bit of rubbing alcohol. And feed the microphone through. Get it pushed down in the little channel. And take the camera back plate. I need to do the microphone or the speakers next. I'm gonna rotate it. Get the little speaker grill and spacer in. Feeding these speakers through is always kind of interesting to see, especially when I get consoles that have been, I get junk consoles that have obviously been opened up and worked on. The DSi and the DSi XL have different ways of feeding these speaker ribbons, or speaker wires. The DSi will go underneath the screen, and the XL goes above it. So I've had a DSi XL that had the ribbon, or not the ribbon, the speaker wires fed from underneath the screen, which was really strange. But I understand where they were coming from. Like, well, if it's somebody who's used to working on DSIs, I could easily make that mistake. I don't remember if there was like excess slack. Like, I think maybe a little bit, but it worked. I can't really blame them, but that's not how That's not how they were fed from the factory. I just thought it was kind of funny. Okay. The Wi-Fi antenna nice and seated in its channel. Okay, so now I need to get it fed through the top portion of the bottom hinge. Let me sort of make sure that these sections are clean, because this is the best time to clean that little point, or this like groove here on this shell piece, because once you marry these two sections on, you can't really get in there. Should still be clean. I hasn't been out in the wild that often, or for that long. Okay, it's fed through. I'll get the hinge in. Sort of get the top screen, get the lens wiped off for the camera. Get the little flash, or I don't even know if it is a flash diffuser. I think it might just be a little indicator light to say that the camera is actually on, to kind of notify people if you're spying on them or something. Can't really say. I don't care too much for the cameras on these things. More of a novelty, not a necessity. Okay, hinge is good. Should have probably left this little piece of tape on, but now that I put it on a paper towel, it's going to have fibers on it. Let's feed the microphone wire. And the Wi-Fi antenna. And then I usually like to use just a little bit of Captain tape just to hold those two wires down while I'm installing the motherboard. Like if I had to take the motherboard out for any reason to work on the touchscreen, for instance, it won't yank these wires out of their little channel. I creased that piece of tape, so I'll grab another one. Okay, that's really all that's needed. Get all the buttons in, the LED diffusers. I'm just going to give all these buttons just a quick brush off again. Should be fine. They all looked good. Those buttons are in good shape. Okay, I am ready to put the console back together. Just gonna check around this bezel. This bezel looks like it's in good shape. I don't know how clean I was with in that regard. Looks like I did a good job. The bezel is chewed up a little down here, but it's just more or less a cosmetic piece. Alright, so now let's actually get to installing the motherboard. Wipe off the ribbon cables again with rubbing alcohol. Get any finger goo. I already did this to the bottom screen, but I'll just do it again. Never hurts. Just to make sure I don't have any finger oil on it. Now inserting the top screen ribbon cable, this can be a point of contention as well for anyone who's not very familiar with opening up these consoles. I've had exactly 2 cases where the console wouldn't turn on, and it was all because this top screen cable wasn't inserted all the way. Somebody took the console apart, put it back together, it didn't work, sold it as junk, basically. I found that if you use the shell as sort of an anchor, or as sort of a point to push along, like if you pinch the little amber solid piece of the ribbon cable between the connector, have the connector open, you can push down and it will fully seat that cable. I don't like doing that, but well, I do like doing that because I find that that's an easier way to fully seat the cable. It sometimes will bend that end of the ribbon cable, which I don't like doing, because too many bends on that amber piece will break the ribbon. It'll just crack the traces. But I don't see there's a really easier way to do that. New digitizer. Get the Okay, now the crap load of screws. And then I get to deal with the part I really am not too looking forward to. So as ashamed as I am to say it, they were also having a power issue, which I think is game card slot related. And I don't want to say that my testing protocol for the game card slot is flawed. This is an older console that I put together. But I'm pretty sure my protocol was about the same. The only difference is I am trying to compensate for that by adding a third testing protocol, not just 2 testings. Hopefully to fully sort of stamp out that issue, but what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to take one of my dental picks, go into the game card slot, and just give all of them a little tug up, as well as a good cleaning. That should, in theory, fully eliminate the problem once and for all. Like, if my understanding of the game card slot, which it's also pretty simple, it's just bent copper pins that bend down when a game card is inserted. And sort of my leading theory is that just the hundreds and hundreds of game cards that have probably gone in and out of these game card slots just bend those little pins down. I have to grab a different pick. So I have kind of my straight pick that I use for everything at a 90-degree angle. There's one that's more of like it's also 90-degree, but it goes at it at 45 degrees, and then there's also this more violent hook. I should be able to get at it with this 45-degree angle one. The idea is just kind of going in and just giving them each a little tug up. It's not really going to be something I can show on camera, just the angle is obnoxious. But I only usually do this on like extreme cases where cleaning is doing just jack shit. And I just have to... It's less about the pins being clean and more about like... There's actually something physically wrong. I need to get my smaller 90-degree to get these last couple pins. Now I pushed this first pin up a little too far. I'm just going to set it back down. Okay. And because I'm thinking about it, I'm going to reflow the power plug. Maybe see if I need to bend those pins out a little as well. I'm really going kind of to the extreme here, but really reflowing that plug is benign. Let me get my solder iron back on. And I've noticed that almost similar to that little magnetic sleep component, sometimes just a cold solder joint creates power issues, especially on this. I think I've only fixed a console once by reflowing this little port. These 3 main solder points right there. But it would make sense because this would experience some degree of mechanical stress. Not much. I think the shell kind of reinforces it, so similar to the charge port, but the charge port can also have solder issues. But this will fully eliminate it. I'll even add a little more solder. Fully liquefy it, and then I'll even do these 2 points while I'm here. Okay. So any power related issues, I think these pins are okay. They look fine. And let me get the little solder points cleaned off. I didn't use any flux. That's all right. Didn't really need it. Get the physical battery contacts, rubbing alcohol on them. I will clean the game card slot. I do want to run a first series of test on them. And I think I have more shovelware games that I can grab just to add to my testing suite. Probably what I should do, just throw 10 games instead of, what, 8? 7. That's in all the way, that's in all the way. Just have to plug in the screws. I was gonna do the camera, but I don't want this flopping out. I think if I really wanted to look into the sleep circuit, I would have to go through the DSI circuit schematics that were created. But without knowing what all these chips do, it would be kind of futile. Okay, let's get the camera installed. I did just touch it. I found that the easiest way to install this camera is to fully extend out the console. Open it up all the way, because that gives the camera ribbon a lot more slack. Like I'm overshooting the connector by quite a bit. There we go. Yeah, so let me go see if I can find my other shovelware games. Oh yeah. Get the mother load with these garbage games. We have another Pampered Pets. Sweet. Zuzu Pets, which I have the case for. Harry Potter and Half-Blood Prince, Order of the Phoenix, SmackDown vs. Raw, Jambo Safari, Animal Rescue, Build-A-Bear, Horses, Nintendogs, a classic, My Baby 3, and Friends. Another Go Diego Go game that somebody was trying to sell for $10, which is a bit absurd. That has a big ass thing on it. Pets Hamster Life. I want to get this label off. That is definitely going to impact. Oh, this is an old. Oh, wow. I need more rubbing alcohol. Really just wipe that off. I think it might be a GameStop label. Once upon a time. Because I don't want this label really impacting or leaving residue in the game card slots. Try and scrape it off. Well, it's doing something. I knew I had a lot of shovelware games. I didn't know I had this many. So I'm more than happy to throw more game cards at a game card slot just to really just drive down home that the game card slot's good. Because I really can't imagine some of these games getting a lot of use. Like I can do an inspection on these pins. What I'm about to do might damage the label, but I don't think anybody is gonna cry about a Go Diego Go game. Unless it's worth like $300 for some reason because rare collectible or whatever. I don't care. Those came off pretty easy. Let me kind of look at these game cards just to see their condition. Other than this one being a little dusty. It's like a little piece of crud. I don't know what that is. I should probably at least brush off the pins so I'm not putting dirty games into what I want to be a clean game card slot. Sort of defeats the purpose. This Go Diego Go game, very good shape, I would say. I think this one's just a little dirty. I can't really tell. That one's good. Ooh, this one's really good. I don't know if I have like a truly worn down game card that I can test as sort of like the final boss, so to speak. Then 10 dogs. Oh, this one even has a little bit of corrosion on it. Spoke of the devil. I have to make sure I get that off. I'm gonna have to take my magnifying glass to that one. Horse game. I think the only value that these games would have is if one of them shares the, there's a chip in Pokemon games, that the save chip that fails, that have been failing, and you can replace them with a chip within a shovelware game that uses sort of the same component, and then the game will work. I don't know exactly that game list off the top of my head. Some very smart GBA temp people figured that out. I bow to their knowledge. This has some sticky crap on the back. You. Ooh, interesting. Actually, I could pretty much be doing this on my magnifying. Or in my microscope. Why not? Let me recenter that because I'm a crazy person. Yeah, footage of reflective pins might not be very good. This looks pretty good. Turn off my light, maybe? Oh god. That's a pretty good angle. Or pretty good lightness level. I'll just go over with a Q-tip and kind of press down hard so that the Q-tip kind of deforms to these little grooves and then just sort of wipe them out. This one kind of has a scratch right there. I don't know what exactly that is. I didn't really see that from this far away. What pin is it? Is this pin? It's not a hair. Oh, it is a hair. Okay. Never mind. Yeah, just a hair. Okay. Well, here was the Nintendogs that had just a touch of corrosion. Right there, you can kind of see it. Now that I do not want in a game card slot. But it should, yeah, just easily flake away once I get my sewing needle on it. That got it. Looks like it did kind of scratch away at the coating. Ooh, and that's a little bowed out too. That won't matter, because once the pins go in, it should straighten this out. That I don't think I did. It almost looks like it took an impact or something, like the edges of these plastic spacers are bent. Curious. These games usually come free with my junk consoles. They're just free little goodies. Obviously nothing anybody's going to try and ask for back. Look at this guy. Ooh, so shiny you can't even see him. Yeah, maybe a little dirt right there. Some hair. Just brushing them off with a acid brush. I believe that's what it's called. Just a stiff bristle brush is really all I needed. I'm going across it. Have a paw. Ooh, what's that? Just like a little bit of grime. Ew, yes it is. dirt or something. Not the same color as corrosion. But really, come one, come all. I want game cards in every shape possible. Yeah, it mostly came off. There's a little nugget left in there that I might be able to get with a... Yeah, I still kind of see it. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Voila, just like new. Another Harry Potter. Kind of the same shape. It's got all this like dirt on it. I need to put a paper towel down. Just so I can help absorb all this rubbing alcohol I'm using. I'm not going to use my sewing needle unless I have to. I'll use my little plastic pry tool. That's probably all that's really needed to get some of this stuff up. Yeah, like that. I may be wrong. Let's just kind of see what happens when I take my acid brush to it. That's a little more stubborn. Never mind. I will take it back. I'll just be... Don't like using metal if I don't have to. Ooh, that's like a little pit. My needle was catching on it. Good. Come one, come all. I'll happily take... Basically, the more diversified the game card, the more thorough my testing will be. Oh, that one just came away. Okay. Yeah, I definitely don't recommend taking a sewing needle to any game card you actually like. That is kind of an aggressive cleaning measure, but I have no reason to believe this game card won't work just fine. Okay. This game with the case, so Zuzu's. That looks pretty worn. This one looks really worn. Wow. Huh. I wonder what these black parts are. if I could take these game cards apart, which you can, but it's very destructive, I would, and I would clean these pins a lot better. Like, wow. Because I don't think I can get an eraser in there. It's not going to really get these edges very well. I'll just get it the best I can so it's not flaking off in the game card slot. Having a game card that kind of looks like this will almost be better because it will be able to simulate more real world conditions instead of just perfectly clean game cards. Because if all I'm putting in game consoles is perfectly clean game cards, this doesn't really simulate reality all that well. Okay, and then last but probably least, another Pampered Pets, which is in amazing condition, really. More rubbing alcohol. Okay. Oh god. Tower of Pisa fell over. So with my what was once 7 is now 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 cards. As much as this will kind of extend out my testing protocol, I think this will be a far more thorough, is far more points of data I can collect. So now instead of one game card failing, if I can get a better... If one game card fails out of this entire stack, then that's a far less percentage of failure than if only one of 7 failed. Thinking. I think I can put this back together. That's what I'm thinking. Let me just hit these shoulder buttons. Shoulder button connectors. And while I'm putting everything together, what I will do is actually clean off the game card slot. Just give it a pass with rubbing alcohol. And then while I'm putting it together, it'll give it a chance to dry. I have said that this kind of skews the results, but I'll do this a couple of times. So I'm not just going to test this once and call it good. I'll test it a little later tonight, I think. So I coated the pins with rubbing alcohol, and now I'm just taking it in and out of the game card slot really quickly. The idea is just putting friction on that game card slot. And the rubbing alcohol should be enough to, well, clean it. I really don't have a better method of cleaning it, because putting stuff in that game card slot may bend those pins, and I really don't want to do that unless I'm intentionally bending the pins. What I could do is, I know people have been making 3D prints of these DS cards. I might be able to get a 3D print of one and then maybe somehow get like a flat eraser in. That would be probably the best idea that I can immediately think of. Or putting a microfiber cloth on, like inside the game card slot, or that game cartridge, and soaking it with rubbing alcohol, and then like inserting it. Because yeah, I would think the microfiber cloth would offer a little more resistance and better suited to do that. So let's get this together, and then I want to test, before I get to the game cards, I want to test the sleep. See if it still does that. shouldn't. And if, for say, like the game, like the power board was doing that, causing that issue somehow, some way in the circuit, it prevents it from sleeping and it's causing that like weird glitching. Well, that's new to me. Something that I can look into. Because the power boards are very simple. There's not even any... I think all that's on it, aside from the LEDs, is one resistor, one 10K resistor, and a fuse. Oh, I dropped one. No! Flashlight, save me. I heard it drop, so it shouldn't be too far. Here, top screen screw, top screen screw, top screen screw. Troll around with. Oh. Go underneath my tower? That'd be wild. This is quite the scavenger hunt. Where did that little bastard go? Ah. I have no idea where it went. Doesn't help that this flashlight's running out of charge. Oh, these are rechargeables. Okay. That's better. Holy shit. There it is. I swear to God. People have been postulating how on Earth you're gonna resupply explorers on Mars. All NASA needs to do is tie a payload to one of these tiny screws and the velocity will be beyond scientific comprehension. Those things just go. Anyway, let's get this back together. Voila, it turns back on. Sweet. I didn't break it. So let's test the sleep. I'll test it in Mario Kart again because that was when I was testing it. I don't need it max volume. So, like before, I have my little neodymium magnet. This might be the wrong side. It is. Let me flip it over. Shuts off. Wi-Fi light dims. So, all the original components, with the exception of the camera, are installed. The power light's also pulsing. So yeah, I think that was just a cold solder joint. That is wild. I've never seen that before. Cool. And it's reading Mario Kart just fine. So now, thinking. Let's get my little Mountain O game cards over here and just start feeding them in and doing my sort of stress test that I do. So as just a recap, I'll start off with this SmackDown versus Raw. There is some kind of like permanent marker or something up here. Let me get that off. Yeah, it was permanent marker. Okay. Thankfully, Sharpie is alcohol soluble, so it comes off really easy. I'm gonna let that dry. I'll just put that over there. So I'll grab my game. I'll insert it like normal. Pops up immediately. Then what I'll do is take my finger, put a little bit of pressure on it, and then shift the game card side to side. It's not enough to actually trigger the mechanism. I would say in order, like if I were to put like a percentage on it, I would say maybe about anywhere from like a quarter to half the pressure needed to trigger the mechanism. And then I just sort of shift it side to side. It's not disappearing. And then I give it a few good whacks. This does two things. This tests the contact with the battery as well as the game card. If that game card disappears at all from that main menu, then even just for that briefest second, in the testing that I've done, if you're playing a game card and it disconnects for just a fraction of a second, your entire console will either freeze or just shut off. I see it more just shutting off. That game passes. I'll put that in the pass pile, I suppose. Zuzu's. I think this game card was in kind of rough shape. Ooh, clipped it in like normal. Doesn't even read. Clip it in again. Okay, pops up. Shift it side to side. I'm going to put that in a fail pile. My babies. Pops up. Pass. Build-A-Bear. Good. My Hamster Life, I think that's what it was. Pet's Hamster Life. And then one of the pampered pets doesn't pop up. Try it again. Pops up. Fail pile. Nintendogs. Oh. That I did see that blip out. I'll put that right there. The other pampered pets. Let me just get that cinched down. Ooh, interesting. Huh. I wonder why it was disappearing when I was cinching those together. Okay. Go, Diego, go. It not reading initially, but reading the second time. That's an interesting issue. Because it's not having connectivity issues through my normal battery of testing. Wonder Pets. Now we're getting into more of my usual testing cards. Ooh, I think I did see it there. Yeah, there it disappeared. Interesting. Dog Whisperer, then this one's been kind of being a pain. I am putting the console through rather, like, extreme stress. But realistically, the game card shouldn't disconnect. Actually, that was a pass. Another heavy paw. Not connecting the first time, connecting the second time. Horses. And some of these are brand new game cards, with the exception of Wonder Pets. That was one of my usual ones, so I've never put these game cards through this testing. That one disappeared. So it's not to say that it's this console, but oh no, this one was a pass. Crafting Mama, I think, is my best shape card. So if it has a problem reading Crafting Mama, that's like when shit's real bad. Which it has no problem. SmackDown versus Raw. Oh. It's in right now. This one's really bad, okay. SpongeBob. So let me just try and see, kind of put to concept what I was saying. Wow. It's entirely possible it's just this game card. Because this one was not part of my testing suite, but holy moly. I don't know if I'll even be able to launch it. An error has occurred. Ooh, this game card just might be just fried. Looks fine. That's wild. I might need to get a control console just to verify that. Wow. Let me just keep pressure on it, I guess. See if it boots. Yeah, it does. I'm holding the game card down right now. So if the game card were to disconnect, in this case, the console's still on, but it just black screens. Okay. This game card's wild. Hang on, let me grab a control. I can grab this pink guy. So here's just the rose gold console that I put through game card or battery testing recently. Just slot it in. It reads it just fine. Oh. So it could possibly be this game card, but it's reading it a lot better than on the blue. Yeah, there it disappears. does pop up without a need for me to hold it in, but as soon as I put a little bit of pressure, at least not anymore. Oh, there it goes. Yeah. So I think that might just be my final boss. the game card to beat. That's the one that needs to be read. Let me do another... Oh, I never tried out Bejeweled 3. Gosh darn it, I missed one. Okay, that one passes. So I did kind of like what I was talking about, making a game card that just for cleaning. I did strip the game card out of this and put a piece of paper towel in. I don't know exactly how well this works, though. I can try it, though. I'm kind of going through extreme measures at the moment. The paper towel might not be thick enough to actually make good contact, but what I can do is, since SmackDown versus Raw was kind of acting strange, I can maybe clean it, put some resistance. I'm using 91% alcohol, so that should really do a good job drying that out. Okay, so cleaned it with 2 different apparatus. Now I'm just gonna try, I won't try that yet, but I'll try the ones that we're having a hard time reading initially. I don't know why that is, if there's like... I wouldn't think that would pass QA if a card didn't read immediately. So again, I'm trying the stack of game cards that didn't read when I initially put it in, but read fine through the rest of the tests. So now they're popping up. It's almost like they have to make like a... They have to like cache the title information, and for some reason they don't do that initially, but after they do that, they work fine after that. I don't know if I put a little too much pressure on that. No, that one's definitely disappearing on me. I will put a little more pressure on it just for the sake of testing. It's not disappearing anymore. There it goes. Okay, that one goes in that pile. Horses. Oops. Wonder Pets. Ten Dogs. Why did they choose a Chihuahua? The ugliest of all dogs. Could have chose a cute little lab like they have. Oh well, on SmackDown vs. Raw, the boss. Ooh, pops up immediately. I'm not gonna say my pink console was in the best shape, game card slot wise. That's literally one that's like fresh off a battery test, so I haven't even done the initial round of testing on. So everything but this game has passed so far. Yeah, there it goes again. Again, this is the new card I'm adding, so it could be that this game card is just worn. Like, this is the one that had the black edges, or the black ends of these pins. Not to say that the console isn't at fault, but I can't exactly say that this is exactly innocent. But it should serve as a good proxy of a typical game card. So it does vanish. I can use that to clean it just so that I can clean it. Sometimes the rubbing alcohol sort of messes with the mechanism, so it doesn't spit the game out all the way. Once it dries, it goes back to normal. Okay, grab a little bit of water. So I'm going to test everything again. Put Zuzu's on the bottom so it can dry. All right. SpongeBob. Good. You know what? Mario Kart. Good. R4 card. I don't usually test with these two cards, but now I can't really shift the R4 card side to side. There's no space. The R4 cards can be a little more difficult to read because they don't have those little plastic guides. as part of their shell construction. And sometimes this card won't pop up due to time bomb and other reasons. I noticed that I can have some game card slot problems when it comes to those R4 cards. So that's why I usually don't include them. Because this console should be expecting retail cards, not R4 cards. Like, I had one console that won't read that ace card. It reads retails just fine. The problem ended up being is just those pins weren't bent up enough to read the R4 card. Maybe that PCB is thinner. Thankfully, these consoles aren't that hard. Adding more games to the lineup. My poor palm. I don't hit that hard. It sounds a lot harder than it actually is. Ideally, you would never have the console sort of smacked that hard while you're playing it. Okay, here's Zuzu Pets again. I'm gonna sort of spend a little more time on this card. Okay. It seems like cleaning was the answer. SmackDown versus Raw. It could be either cleaning of the console's game card pins or just cleaning of the game card pins. Game card slot pins versus the game card pins. And I think the actual game card slot pins might offer a little more resistance than just a Q-tip. Or a little more, resistance, friction, abrasion, I guess is the better term. Like, I'm not going to go at them with a magic eraser. I could, but I don't want to venture too far away from a typical game card. Wiping it down with alcohol is one thing. Hang on a second. This is an aside that I did not notice. This is my ace card. Ah! I wonder what Pipa Funnel is. Ubisoft. I wonder if that's like French or something. Curious. That's the same game. Anyway, that was my ace card, which... Again, I think that PC... You know what? I have calipers. Why don't I just go off on a tangent here? So this is my ace card that sometimes has problems reading. We're at 1.4 millimeters, 1.42 millimeters, 1.39 millimeters. That's going to be a little hard because of the plastic guide. 1.7 millimeters. 1.77. 1.8. Huh. 0.4 of a millimeter. That's just enough to sort of not catch some of these game card, or to not make good contact with one specific R4 card. Hang on, because it read this one just fine. .56, and this was 1.39. Wow. To think just that incredibly small bit of space. Wow, what a clusterfuck of game cards. What is my phone at? 31%. Okay. Last but not least, I may have pressed a little too hard on that one. I don't think I did. This game card didn't have a problem before, so that may have just... I'm not going to say that was a fluke. I did that intentionally. Now, me pressing too hard actually shouldn't matter, because the game card should read all the way up until I trigger the mechanism, and as I back out past that point, then it will disconnect. So I should probably alter what I say, because me pressing too hard shouldn't matter, as long as I don't pull it back beyond the point of the mechanism. So it passed everything. Typically cleaning the game card slot, I have noticed that will trigger false positives. Even if, like, the alcohol is completely dried, just for some reason, it's far more sensitive than it would be. I'm just gonna do another pass. I did bend the game card's pins up, so those should be fine. I could bend them up more aggressively, but that shouldn't be the problem at this point. I could always look into trying to find like a flat brush of some type that I can shove in the game card slot and try and clean pins with. I would have to make something from scratch. I don't think one... Try and see if I can purchase something like that. So really what I was saying is just because that can pose false positives, I like giving it a little while for it to fully dry, which I probably will do. I might test it a little later tonight. And then in the morning, so we're talking many hours apart from one another, which, well, 91% rubbing alcohol should dry up pretty quickly, in the matter of seconds, really. But a few hours should really stretch that beyond. So, interesting issue. I did not expect the sleep little component that controls sleep to have a cold solder joint, but that was pretty wild. I do want to kind of test that again, actually, just to like fully certain that that was the problem. Grab my magnet again, flip it over, completely off again. Now I am using a neodymium magnet, so that's pretty aggressive. Let me just close the console then, using its own magnet. So just judging off the lights, you can see that the Wi-Fi light goes out. The power light is breathing, so to speak. And we're not getting that flashing. Because like before, that top screen was flashing. So if I open it, come out of sleep. Now it's in sleep again. And that's pretty far, like I'm hinge closed it. So I'm curious, like I know there was a console problem that I came across Reddit where the console would die while in sleep mode. It's entirely possible it had that exact same problem where it's just like flickering the screen on and off. That would definitely kill the battery. Or it would drain the battery fast in sleep mode. Because it's actually powering up and down the display super quickly. Curious. Okay, well, I'll monitor the game card slot some more. See if I can really get it nailed down. If I feel confident that it can read all those cards without any issue, then I think this console is good to go. So yeah, fun.